off the deflection. Los Fresnos comes back and wins. Now Santa Maria will put up a three. Bang! Santa Maria!
Here's Warner. Here comes a headed to jam. Counted for two. Field. Adios! And the Falcons win on a walk-off. And it's saved.
What a game. Cortez smacked to the left. That is gone.
Lob for Perez. That's my play. Off the backboard. Count it. And a win. And a win. Brian Perez wins the game for the Santa Rosa Warriors. And they go.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to our weekly show here at Luke Faria Motors in Brownsville, Texas. Kevin Aro, Ruben Rodriguez, Rudy Zamaripa Jr., and Jacob Young joining us here later in the show. Thanks for joining us again. And we are a full head of steam right towards the back end of winter, getting into the spring sports. We're now week 2, week 3 into softball. We're a full week into high school baseball. We have soccer where we have teams who have already started district play, teams who have yet to get district play started. So Jacob's our soccer guy, and later today in the show, he's going to be joining us, and he's going to break down what exactly is going on in the 5As and the 6As. And we had a soccer match last night at St. Joe that they'll break down. Later this week, we have Valley View Sherryland on Friday night. That game is expected to be a big one, but starting with last night and with basketball, we saw a variety of games from the Weslaco Harlingen game to Nicky Rowe and Edinburgh Vela, an upset scare down there in McAllen. Jacob was at that game. He'll talk more about that game later. And then you were at Brownsville St. Joe Soccer. I was on the road in San Antonio with Brownsville St. Joe girls and boys. So for starters, we'll kick it off with some soccer because that's what you saw last night with Brownsville St. Joe. They got a home win at Canales Field, and as far as I know, the train's rolling as far as Coach Tovar and the soccer team there at St. Joe.
Oh, St. Joe, they wrapped, first of all, on Saturday they picked up that 4-1 win over St. Anthony on the road in San Antonio. And you look at it again the last time they took on MMA. MMA squad struggled or started a bit good on defense, and it didn't take too long for St. Joe to just break it open on offense. Rolando Vasquez picked up 3 goals. Diego Saldana picking up 3 as well. Claudio Torres also getting in the mix. I know it's a name we brought up a lot in football, picking up 2 goals in this St. Joe squad. Oh, and even Francisco de la Garza, he was at a keeper in the first half. They switched keepers. They put Diego Garza in at keeper, and he goes in his first few minutes, and he picks up a goal himself, too. So a 10-2 victory for St. Joe over MMA. They said the goals will begin the second half of HAPS District play on Saturday. I know Jacob will have the call for that one, but just St. Joe, that's a team who they just keep on rolling, and they keep on getting better and better as the weeks go by, and they just look to hold on and ride that momentum into the playoffs.
And with that being said, on the road yesterday, on the boys' side, they needed overtime to beat San Antonio Christian, and I felt that this team had been rolling. They went through the first round of district play unbeaten, and there wasn't a target on their back, like we mentioned a couple weeks ago when Coach Lucio was here on the show. Well, now there is one because of the fact that St. Joe did run that table. They got that big win against TMI. They got that big home win against Laredo last week, in fact. So going into the second round, you got to keep this going. And for St. Joe yesterday on the boys' side, at least, I like how Coach Lucio described it as a wake-up call. And that's exactly how I felt, looking at this team, that, you continue to play well for so long that at some point you're going to hit maybe a rock in the road. And, you need those games where you need to get challenged a little bit in between the games and when you play TMI and when you play Laredo, because you know for a fact that those are going to be tough games. When you play Laredo, when you play TMI, you're going to get their best. You know that you've already beaten them once, and especially going into those first matchups, you knew what to expect. And what I'm saying is these are more winnable games for St. Joe when they play, the St. Mary's, when they play the St. Anthony's, who wasn't a cakewalk last time here in Brownsville. They go there on Tuesday. The winnable games they need to win, and yesterday. And what I mean by that is they cruised. Friday at Victoria St. Joe, they won by 30. And everyone just kind of, ho-hum. Jerry had his 20. Jimmy had his 18-20. And yesterday, like I said, it was a perfect example of a wake-up call to remind these guys to say, hey, the season's not over yet. And, like I said, it took them overtime to win that game. Bernie was our player of the game. He just did a little bit of everything. He had 6 points in the fourth quarter and in overtime. And he took a charge late in that game that really helped shift the momentum in St. Joe's favor, and they trailed for most of that game. And I thought San Antonio Christian shot the ball really well. But, like I told Coach Nava yesterday, was that good teams find ways to win. And this was a road game for St. Joe. Yesterday, we all had travel issues, and so it was a more turbulent day through the first part of the day. And then remember that these kids have to get on a bus, they got to travel, and then get off the bus, jump onto the court, and play the game. So that's always a tough chore anytime you have to travel, especially with yesterday, just having the travel issues and getting there a little late. On the girls' side, I know we got there a whole hour late, but nonetheless, it was a big win for St. Joe and a gut check win for them. Jimmy finished with 30. Jerry finished with 21, and Bernie finished with 6. But it was just some things down the stretch that Bernie did that helped St. Joe come back and win that game in overtime. On the girls' side, that was a heartbreaking loss. They were up by 7 with 2 minutes left. I thought Andrea Hasso probably played one of her best games of the season. And the San Antonio Christian, they came back and won that game. So now you're looking at the girls are on the outside looking in the playoffs. And they go on the road Friday at 6 to play San Antonio Providence. So, there's plenty of games this year that St. Joe on the girls' side, they've lost by 1, they've lost by 3. Against St. Mary's, who's the top team in that district, they lost that game by 5. And I felt that St. Joe had every opportunity to win that game when it came down the stretch. Just missed free throws, missed layups, just missed opportunities down the stretch. And that's what happened yesterday. St. Joe had their opportunities to win. They let that lead slip away late. So, now they really do have their work cut out for them. Switching things over to the Harlingen-Westlaco game, I know Rudy was there, Joe was there. From what I watched, it was a low-scoring game. When I was talking with Joe, that Athena Lenartz probably played one of her best games. I know she posted a double-double. She was the player of the game for us last night down in Westlaco. So for Harlingen, they now swept Westlaco in regular season. So now they put themselves in first place. They still have to play Los Fresnos, and they still have to play San Benito another time. But at least for the time being, Harlingen is now, they're the best team in that district, and they have put themselves in a position to win another district title. On the boys' side, you saw the Harlingen boys all of a sudden. A week ago today, we were talking about, their season's on the line, and this is a must-win for them at Los Fresnos. They go and they get that win at Los Fresnos, and then they get a win last night at Westlaco. So those are 2 huge road games that Harlingen was able to put together, and now they're back at the 500 mark. Now they're 2-2. Because like I said, it's crazy how things can change in a week. Where I'm sitting here saying, okay, here's Ryan, who's the next guy to step up? And then we saw Barajas go off for 24 against Los Fresnos, and last night we saw Harlingen. I saw the last possession where Westlaco, they still had an opportunity to win that game, and it was Ryan had 19 points. He did his thing, and then down the stretch, it was Luis Rodriguez who helped make a couple of key plays. So, just all in all, just a win. That's all that matters. If you're a Cardinal fan, just win. But the big story in 32-6 is San Benito, and I didn't see them starting out 4-0 in district. I don't think a lot of people, maybe only the guys inside that locker room with Coach Garza, and they were a lot like Harlingen South, where you look at them and say, okay, well they beat this team, but they still got to play so-and-so. They still got to play this team. And then you weren't really exactly jumping on the bandwagon just yet. But, they're 4-0. The writing's on the wall. There's no secret. They're right now, they're the team to beat in that district. They're 4-0, and they have one more game before we wrap up the first round. But, San Benito continues to get better each week. I thought they were very athletic, and their majority of them are all football players. That's the crazy thing. So, the funny stat was that team hadn't won a game until their football guys got there, and they've really turned it around there in San Benito. And then now you're looking at Los Fresnos. They picked up a big win last night. Hannah Harlingen, that's just as big on Friday. And now if you're Hannah, you lose last night to San Benito, and now you're kind of on the outside looking in. Now that's a must win for you. You're gonna have to go on the road to Harlingen, who all of a sudden they've turned it around just a little bit. And for Westlaco, they're 1-3, and everyone else 2-2, and then 4-0. So, that district's still far to be decided, and because we still have to go through that second round. So, for San Benito to put themselves in first place, I think that speaks volumes for them.
Yeah, we're seeing this district, it parallels last year when we had 32-60 with that 18 district. It was Wesco on top, and you had Harlingen, Hanna, and Harlingen South fighting for it. Now here, you got Harlingen and Hanna and Los Fresnos all 2-2, so crucial games here for Los Fresnos coming up against Wesco. For Wesco, it's a must-win for them after falling to Harlingen last night. Los Fresnos, again, who picked up their first big win in the past 2 games after dropping San Benito and into Harlingen. But that Harlingen-Hanna game will set the stage for who potentially captures the number 2 seed unless Los Fresnos gets that win over Wesco.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to be decided because everyone's 2-2, or 1-3, and even at 1-3, if you're Westlaco sitting back and kind of just looking at yourself in the mirror, you're still in it. You win the games you're supposed to. If you can finish at 2-3 going into the second round, because 2 of those teams will be 2-3 by the end of Friday night, and then you can put yourself at 2-3. You're right back in it with a whole second round to go. So that district is it's getting very interesting. Harlingen South down in 5A, they continue to win, and now we're starting to see the seedings kind of start to take place and see who's going to be the 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the 31 5A side and on the 32 5A side, and just coaches are starting to they won't admit it, but they're starting to kind of put the pieces together and see, okay, in the first round we may see this team. This is a team we may see in the first round, whether it's 3 or the 4. 2 and the 3 on one other side, so we're getting that much closer to the postseason for basketball.
Talk about Brownsville veterans too. They're on a 4-game winning streak. They had started. This is a team who would start off the season 0-3 in district play, and now they're sitting in third at 9-3. Well, technically second, tied up with Wesco East, who's 9-3 as well, and then Pace is at the 4th speed, and Lopez and Mercedes are looking in at 6-6 and at 6-6 as well here. Again, Harlingen South just continues to pick up wins here in district.
And then switching gears to, we'll talk more about that Vela Row game. Jacob was the one there covering it, so he'll break that down more in our next segment. But you did get to make a trip or trips for baseball?
I had 1 trip so far. I'll have 3 more coming up this week. I 1 tonight and 2 tomorrow afternoon. But we got to see Harlingen South again. It's a new system for them. Brian Ogney at the helm. It's a very young squad over in 32 5A. We looked at them earlier. It's a new district for them as well, too. We saw they're bringing back only 2 seniors, Descano and Jay Castellanos, but they have 1 junior, Matt Flores, who missed the majority of 2022 due to an ACL injury sustained in the preseason. But ever since been looking at him in the rehab, got to see him throwing back behind the plate. He was just doing excellent. He's also on the mound, and a very sophomore-heavy squad for Harlingen South. Aiden Medrano, Josh Ruiz, Colby Martinez, Andre Guadarrama. It's just a team that's looking to make statements here, but they're going to go up against Ed Calachoso, Wesco East, Brownsville Veterans Memorial, Brownsville Porter in a very tough 32 5A. And I'm going to get to see Brownsville Veterans tonight, and that's going to be excited to see how they respond. Of course, they're bringing in Carlos Garza. Garza had himself a heck of a sophomore year, picking up 75 strikeouts here in district, defensive MVP. And get this, folks, when he's not playing on the mound, he's playing at short, and has a heck of an arm for a shortstop, and only as a junior. It's just going to be very exciting to see how Harlingen South responds in that new 31 5A environment with a lot of heavy hitters, or 32 5A, excuse me. But 31 5A is the district to watch. Sharyland Pioneer, Mac High, McCown Row, Eddie Mergvella, Sharyland High, 5 teams in a very tough district. And same thing as I like to quote Lee Yeager from Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial. You have those 5-2 teams, but guess what? One of those teams isn't going to the playoffs. It's Murderers Row here in the Rio Grande Valley, and it's just excited to see. I know I'm going to get to see Sharyland Pioneer and Sharyland High next week as we continue to break them down. So just stay tuned for our social media to check out some of what these players are saying as they get ready to go into a full season once again.
Alrighty, so we're going to take a break. We're going to step aside, and then Jacob Young is going to be joining us. And like I said, he's our soccer guru. So it's upon request. Joe had always been wanting Jacob to come by and chat some soccer. So he's going to drop some soccer knowledge for you soccer folks out there. When we come back, our very own Jacob Young will be joining us.
Ibanez Tortilleria, serving up freshly made in-house corn and flour tortillas since 1994. Try delicious menudo, tasty barbacoa, fresh tamales, tacos, variadas with juicy grilled chicken, and tender fajitas. On Mondays, buy one barbacoa taco and get one free if you mention that you're a Bloodhound fan. Located at 4726 Paredes Line Road, Brownsville, Texas. Open every day at 6:30 a.m. till 9 p.m. To order, contact 956-541-9594.
Last night?
Music lovers, you have to stop and see the assortment of records, tapes, and records memorabilia at Forever Memories today. Located at 237 North Sam Houston in San Benito, Texas, there's over 10,000 records on display and more coming every day. Looking for your favorite album from the past, first pressings, collectibles? How about a 45 with a single you just have to have? Freddie Fender, Johnny Cash, Hank Williams, Elvis, Beatles, blues, rock, classics, Tejano, it's all here. Organized and priced for you. Forever Memories, 237 North Sam Houston, San Benito.
Welcome back to Luke Freya Motors. Well, this is pretty cool, honestly. First time here, and well, we're just gonna talk some soccer. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah, folks, Jacob Young, for these soccer fans, the face behind the voice of all the soccer in the Upper Valley and some of those biggest soccer. Also, the voice of St. Joe's soccer this year. I know you got to travel with the team so far, so here we're just gonna break things down, and we'll start off with arguably the hottest district in soccer in 31-5A. So, Jacob, just go ahead and take it from here.
Oh, man. Now, that is one fun district just in soccer and in general. From the girls' side to the boys' side, you can't count out almost anybody. The only teams that you can really kind of already start to count out is Pioneer High School. Haven't been able to win anything. Southwest were amazing for a second there as they knocked off a top 10 team in state, if I'm not mistaken, or top 5 team in state, being Smithson Valley. But then Valley View came into town not too long ago and destroyed them by like 5 goals. And so now all of a sudden you're thinking, who's going to be that top dog in the boys' side for things? And then, of course, on the girls' side, you're going to have 2 teams at least that are going to have winning records that are going to miss the playoffs because they only take, of course, 4 teams into the playoffs. So it's absolutely crazy on both sides of the field of how everything is going. Right now, for the first time, McAllen High and boys soccer as well, they lead the district, and they're undefeated in 4 games so far this season. Already playing 4 games. They play the 5th game this Friday, I believe, against PSJ and Memorial. If not, they already played them. But either way, that's going to be very exciting because that could potentially already be for that first half of the season for a playoff spot. Not only district, but for a playoff spot in general. It's just absolutely everybody beats up on somebody in that district.
Yeah, and that goes, and speaking about Matt Kai, that was a major turnaround for them. They finished off in 4th. They barely slid into the playoffs, and now looking at them now, 4-0 on top of the chain. They will be taking on PSG Memorial this Friday, but looking ahead, too, on that boys' side. But the girls' side, too, well, going back to the girls' side, I mean, talk about Edinburgh Villa, the girls 4-0 in district, and McCown were also right there, right behind them. But just talk about how that street fight is, and also, we've said it before, in these 10-team districts, you have a plethora of talent, but out of those 5 teams, it's unfortunate that one's not going to go into playoffs.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And one of the things being, so Villa, being the very, very difficult team that they are, they were very competitive in 6A, moving down to 5A. Out of that 31 6A, basically, back to 31 5A, just they were able to regroup and say, hey, now we have a really good opportunity to maybe potentially win district and show some teams up that we are here to also win. We're going to be competitive, and it's going to be a good deal. One of the things, though, is going to be interesting. They obviously want to knock off McAllen. All the McAllen schools, they already knocked off McAllen Memorial girls, who knocked off this past Tuesday Sherryland High girls. So it's just going to be interesting to see what happens in this district, what happens with Valley View, with Villa, considering that Villa girls were picked to be about 2nd place in district by a lot of coaches in 31-5A.
Yeah, and that's the beauty. That's the beauty of it too, in a sense, when you have those preseason polls, those like preseason predictions by coaches, by media. that gives the players a bit of motivation. Sometimes sometimes will give teams pressure, but the majority of the time it's all right. You have us at 2. All right, let's see if that's the case. And look at them now, at the top of the chain here at 4-0, and of course the road goes. But and you mentioned earlier about Macomb Memorial, they picked up their first win over Sherryland, so that was a much breaker. And for Sherryland, who are currently sitting in 4th, that can shake them up. I know we still have a very lengthy district season to go, but just talk about how important it is to get that ball rolling early on in such a very lengthy district like 31-5A.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're talking about today is the 25th. Yesterday was the 24th. McCallum Memorial and Sherryland High will play against each other literally in a month from now. And that just goes to show it's almost halfway over. For this district, it's almost halfway over, considering that we're about to start February. And there's only there's about 10 teams. There are 10 teams in this district, to be exact, but already playing just about 4 games down out of, 9 games or so on each side. So you play 18 games. So already, not necessarily halfway, but it's getting there. And already playing 4 games has not necessarily taken a toll on teams, but it's just, it's one of those situations that you need to stay on top as best as possible. If not, anybody can knock you off here, because every single week, there's going to be 2 games, and if you lose one of those games, that could be the difference of you making the playoffs or missing it, or winning district and missing district, the district title to be exact, or the city championship.
Yeah, because it's bad enough. It's not bad enough. You're going against time in a sense, don't you have that lengthy schedule, but you also have the fact that we lost the game. Oh, well, you can't go with that mentality, because there's out of those 9 other teams, one picked up a win. That could be the win they need to topple you off the playoff standings. And just verifying that schedule here for Sherryland again, you're right. They're playing them the 24th. February 24th. That's going to be on a Friday night. Hopefully, you might have the call on that one. Who knows? But again, I like to quote Ryan Molina, head coach for Harlingen South, because he told me about this. Because for a lot of these districts, they're not used to being in that 10-team format. They're used to the traditional 8, maybe you're 7 at the most, and if it's stretching at 9, but 10, no. And then again, to quote Ryan Molina, he said, for teams like that, it's not a sprint, but a marathon. It's a race. It's a marathon. So it's a sprint, not a marathon. It's a marathon, not a sprint. There you go. Got it backwards, but that's the case with these districts. You got to take it game by game, but you have to also be very, very serious and very, very careful on these, because you can't afford a loss, especially in a very competitive district like this.
Yeah, 100%. You cannot afford a loss no matter whatever. It's just like college football. It's just like, of course, a little bit in the MLS and the USL, to be exact. I covered the Toros especially, and they were in the Western Conference in the USL. One of the things that was so major was literally with a month to go in the season, they were dead last, in the last possible place in the conference, in the Western Conference. They took 7 teams to go to the playoffs in the Western Conference. The Toros were 5th. Check that, 6th. The Toros ended up finishing 6th in the standings to make it to the playoffs. So it's one of those situations, yes, if there's a team that's in 10th place right now, in last place, they still have that chance, but they have to get the ball rolling, no matter what. That's both on the boys' side and that's both on the girls' side, because with this district, you never know what's going to happen with just beating up on each other. And yeah, I see that you got 32-5A up now, so that should be fun.
Little spoiler, Jacob, we're going to look at them next, but also in a sense, too, again, going back to what you were saying, you could be last right now, but again, it's also a blessing in disguise. It's a very lengthy district, because you can possibly you win out and you can end up being in the playoffs. It just goes to show how everything just goes in a crazy sense. And we'll go down to the lower valley, 32-5, of course, on the boys' side. Wesco East on top, Porter in 2nd, Veterans Memorial in 3rd, and then Lopez in 4th. And talk about that Wesco East squad. They're just continuing to keep the ball rolling. They came off a tie a couple games ago, I believe, and then Porter and Veterans Memorial, those teams always go at it, and they're always in that 2 or 3 spot. And just talk about that deep rivalry. Again, it's not an old rivalry, of course. Veterans established in 2010, 2011, but it's had its moments already.
It definitely has already had its moments. I mean, not only to mention on the boys' side, but also on the girls' side. And there is always going to be some dark sides to soccer. And there's always going to be some light sides to soccer. And one thing, of course, that was the dark side was when they played against each other not too long ago. This past last Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. You were supposed to have the call, but I don't believe that we ended up calling that game. Point is, it was a crazy, crazy game because both teams were playing beautiful soccer. The only problem was there happened to be an issue. And close to the end of the game, one person gets fouled, did not like the foul, wants to talk to the other player. The other player doesn't like that the person's trying to talk to them. And then a fight breaks out on both sides. And in the end, both of the girls were only given a red card. I know that. Both of them sent off, but it was worse. I want to get more in depth into it, but it's just one of those situations that should never, ever, ever happen. Just in soccer in general, yes, there will always be fights. There will always be tempers flaring, but for it to get as bad as it did was just it's not what soccer is about. That's as simple as that. But that's what that rivalry is. Both those teams do not like each other. I saw that not too long ago with McAllen High and Nicky Rowe. Both those schools don't like each other either. And in the boys soccer game, there was a little bit of a extracurricular activities per se. But yeah, of course, that's just what rivalries will give you. That's what rivalries will bring in. Yeah, both of those teams fighting for that district, and that's how much it means to them, too, to get that, to make sure that they make the playoffs and also win against their rivals, win that championship in order to get that number 1 seed and have a technically easier ride through the playoffs. But we all know that first round for sure, as 31-5A is met up with 32-5A in boys and girls soccer. So I don't think it's going to be too easy for either teams to be like a 4 seed could technically be a 1 seed, and a 1 seed could technically be, well, a 1 seed could technically be playing against another 1 seed. But since that district was so difficult, you know it's going to be one of those situations where no matter where you're at, you're not going to be defined by 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Look at the boys' side here, and the teams fighting in 31-5A, McAllen, Valley View, Memorial, and PHA. There's a chance you could see, because again, we still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
There's a chance we could see a Mackay Porter in the first round, or a Ronzo Vets Valley View in the first round. It's just, or Sherryland, West Scalise. It's just like the way everything is shaped up, because again, like, nothing is guaranteed in these districts. Right now, you could be 4-0, like, right, you know, one team can be, for example, one team can be 5-0 now, and then the next 3 games they can fall behind and go into 3 games, and not take someone to take over.
Yeah, 100%. We've seen it before, and it's just, and that's soccer. That's the beauty of it, and it's going to be just something. I really have no words to describe how great it's going to be, because just you're going to fight till that last drop, that last game, to have an opportunity. 3 weeks in, again, last year, I have a couple of friends and a cousin that plays for McAllen High, so I was following them, of course, and they barely missed out, actually, on the playoffs. They finished 5th and just missed out, but one of the things that happened was they won almost all their games at the end of the season, being able to knock off Valley View, being able to knock off Sherryland right at the end of the season, but still fell because they fell just too far behind in this first half of district play, and of course being just a little bit more inconsistent. So of course that's just one of those situations. You cannot, as a coach, let your team think, oh, since we're undefeated right now, we are the best of the best. No, you're probably, you want to think that you are, but 4 games in, no matter what, you're still going to have to play for 31 or 32 5A. Porter's still going to have to play a Pace. Pace is still going to have to play a Lopez. And anything can happen there, where Pace, that's a dark horse in that district too. They can knock off this team that all of a sudden thought that they were the best of the best in the district, knocked them off, and then all of a sudden they don't get on a good scoring streak, then that can follow downhill very quickly.
Just again, going back to the statement you had made, nothing's guaranteed in these districts out. One day you can be 4-0, and then the next week you can be 4-2 or something because you fell behind. But we're going to keep it in the Lower Valley, and we'll talk about St. Joe's soccer. I know you've been getting to travel with them. I got to see them last night get that 10-2 win over MMA, and we also saw them on the road Saturday against San Antonio St. Anthony 4-1. But you've seen the Bloodhounds a lot this season, and they're rolling. And I mean, they're rolling, folks. Unbeaten in TAPS play. Jacob, just go ahead and take it from there.
Yeah, exactly. Unbeaten in TAPS play. They've been fantastic. One of the things, of course, to mention early on in the season, we're talking pre-district, pre-TAPS per se. Well, actually, they played one game in TAPS, which was against Victoria St. Joe, and then went forward and played against a couple of teams from the Valley. They were not necessarily amazing in my eyes when they played those teams. This is very early on, pre-district friendlies, and they fell behind 2 goals really easily against a couple of teams in that pre-district games like Brownsville, Hannah, and the likes of none other than Brownsville Jubilee. They were able to tie Brownsville Jubilee. They weren't able to tie Brownsville Hannah. But I bring those up because the things that they were struggling with was getting possession near midfield and being able to put shots on target and making the keeper work for it. Well, you fast forward, their first 2 TAPS games did exactly that. They drew. Or they didn't, well, they drew in regulation, 0-0, most of them, and then it came back in penalties and won both of those games. So it was a fantastic job from Brownsville St. Joseph to be able to come up big in penalties and win. Now, of course, moving on, after that, I got to cover them on the road, and all of a sudden the floodgates opened. And what I mean by that is they were able to score a lot of goals, beat teams by close to 6 goals or more. And that was a huge, huge boost for that club, for that team, because I could tell from the players they were very happy on the bus ride back. It was a funny thing. One of the bus rides back, my last game that I covered with them on the road, they were playing Among Us on the bus, just all of them together, unionizing, and it was a fun to hear them just having fun with each other because they had a win and they were feeling it. And of course, if they want to keep that momentum, being able to do exactly that is going to be key. And who knows, staying undefeated, being able to score goals. You talked about them scoring a lot of goals yesterday. I believe 10-2 was the final score. So the floodgates being open is going to be key. And only if they can replicate what they did against Victoria St. Joe on the road, or Victoria St. Joe at home this Saturday, where they scored 12 goals against them in TAPS play before, that's going to be fun. That's going to be something that, again, they'll just have a lot of motivation to get a lot of momentum going forward.
And you mentioned that earlier about the team, how they get together after the win. That also it does about because it helps build that team chemistry, and it says, hey, we got the win. We're enjoying ourselves. We can carry this chemistry, this fun we have on the bus. We can carry it onto the pitch, and you can it just helps out a lot. And talk about some of the key names we've seen for St. Joe. I know we've seen at least Adriano Del Pozo, Jose Pablo Butron. Saldana, Rolando Vasquez. No, Vasquez picked up 3 goals and he picked up 2 more. He was our player of the game on Saturday against San Antonio St. Anthony. But how has just the leadership developed you've seen for this St. Joe squad?
Oh, the leadership has been fantastic. Again, I think what really helped were those friendlies. You got to give Coach credit for setting those friendlies up because it showed their weaknesses and what they had, what problems they had technically in on goal for a second, in midfield, and what they needed to work on too, because a lot of that we didn't necessarily see it. And of course, they had a couple of seniors gone after last season, so bringing on a couple of younger players, it's one of those things where yes, we're going to need that chemistry. We're going to need to be able to build our chemistry up and play just like St. Joseph's used to playing, undefeated or close to it in TAPS, being able to move on from the first round and so on to try and get state, because it seems like this year it's either state or bust for this St. Joseph squad is how it feels. And I think that's state or bust for everybody every year, just in general. But it's one of those situations where you get that unionization, you get that chemistry, and you're able to just, you know, if you're a winger, you know what your number 9 needs. You know what your striker needs. If you're a defender, you know what your goalkeeper wants you to do almost immediately. It's things like that where you almost become simpatico because of how great you're both being able to just communicate on the field.
And about also going back to that friendly schedule too, we saw the tournament action they had. We got to see them at that BISD soccer tournament. They were in the winners bracket. They fell short 2-1 to Porter, who eventually won the whole tournament. And then they played that consolation championship against Sherryland. Again, keep in mind the teams they lost to, Sherryland and Porter, those are powerhouse teams.
Yep.
And on top of that, those friendlies with Han and the friendlies with Jubilee, that shaped and the mold. And again, that's the case of those non-district. For non-district play and tournament play, it's like an assessment. Okay, this is where we are. This is what we need to fix, and how are we going to fix it, and when are we going to fix it? That's the case, and that's worked wonders. Again, credit to Coach Edgar Tovada and company there over at St. Joe, picking up that win, and they're undefeated. No kickoff taps round 2 on Saturday here, correct, against Victoria St. Joseph.
Yeah, exactly. And, I mean, we expect them to score goals. I expect them to win this game pretty fairly on Saturday, and being able to be behind goal, what I could potentially see as well is if De La Garza gets tested, I think he gets a shutout too. If De La Garza gets tested behind goal, even when he hasn't been, he's been very strong this season, even behind goal. One of the best memories for him this season, his biggest highlight this year has been being able to not only save penalties, but winning the game off of his right foot, right boot, to literally seal the deal off of a penalty. He did that back-to-back back-to-back games, and that man can almost do it all. is what it seems like. But 100%, they kick it off this Saturday, and prediction for that, they could possibly score 10.
Yeah, Francisco De La Garza, and Katie says he does it all. He played keeper the first half, and they put him in as a forward, as a striker in the second half, and 2 minutes into that second half, he picks up his first goal. And that just goes to show you. I know, Jacob, you also, so he said St. Joe, again, they may pick up that win. Again, we talk about the other, they've also had the other keeper, Diego Gonzalez. His name doesn't get mentioned a lot, too, but he's had a couple of saves when he stepped in there for Francisco De La Garza.
Yeah, Gonzalez has been doing a fantastic job, too, when he's been in on goal. I haven't necessarily seen him too much when he gets in on goal because some of those games, especially early on, were very close, so they needed Francisco De La Garza to be between the pipes as much as possible. And so once you get Diego Gonzalez in sometimes when they have enough of a blowout, Gonzalez has done a really good job being able to keep a shutout as well. And just sometimes, yes, if he gets a goal let in, oh well, there was enough offense for them to mark that off as, okay, that's fine. It's not the end of the world, basically, is what they're saying. So, yeah, he's done a really good job. He's a fantastic backup keeper. And once De La Garza is a senior, if Gonzalez isn't a senior yet, it's just going to be they're good, but behind the goal is what I'm trying to say for St. Joseph for at least a couple of years.
Yeah, again, I also got to see what Gonzalez did, and MMA picked up those 2 goals, but Gonzalez had 7 saves in that second half because MMA came out swinging, looking to try to close out that what was a 6-2 gap at the time before St. Joe picked up the 4 goals in the second half. And then Gonzalez was tested, and he came up big with those key saves. Jacob, I know you also mentioned earlier that you did some work with the Toros. What's the talk for them? I know the season's coming up.
Oh, the talk is fantastic. I've never felt so much relief from the front office for the RGVFC Toros. I'm so proud of what they've been able to accomplish. They're trying to go for their 3rd straight year. They're trying to go to the playoffs for the 3rd straight time in a row. They've been to, if they make the playoffs this year, it will be the 4th ever time that they've made the playoffs, and they started their club in 2016. And now this team looks like they can be a very good threat to maybe not necessarily win the conference, the Western Conference, and get that 1 seed, but at least get close to a 3 to 4 seed, which would be fantastic because they have to play the likes of San Antonio FC. They have to play the likes of Landon Donovan's team, San Diego Loyal, and, of course, Sacramento Republic's always up there, and they look as fierce as can be. Now, of course, Colorado Springs lost a couple of their players, too, so that's the team that RGVFC got eliminated from in the playoffs, too. So they're looking for a little bit of revenge from Colorado Springs Switchbacks as well. But RGVFC signed a couple of great players this offseason, as well as signed back half of their squad that they had last year, like Gringo Torres. You might remember his name for playing in Liga MX a lot, and of course for him being a star for the U.S. men's national team a couple of times. Tyler Derrick's back behind goal, and just a lot of players coming back, which is the first time that we've seen this. In last year, I was depressed as a Toros fan first before being just before covering this team, because RGVFC decided to get rid of half of their team, and at this point didn't necessarily sign a lot of players. And when they did, there were a lot of problems with paperwork and things like that, and injuries from preseason. So it was a mess last year, and I cannot wait for this season to begin. I know it doesn't begin until about March, but it's very good. And what RGVFC are trying to do is trying to grow their brand, trying to grow it into a team that could potentially win the championship, just like their rivals did this past season, San Antonio FC, which, yeah, good for them. That's about all I can say on that. Is good for them winning the winning the championship, because we would have, as a Toros organization, would have liked anybody else to win it, but no.
No, but again, looking back to what he had said about the Toros, that like last year they finished in 6th in the West. This year, and he said that they have a chance to finish 3rd and 4th, not win it all quite yet, but it's baby steps. You're moving up, you're slowly building, and he said signing back half the squad, bringing a couple key names back here for this season could just help out. So again, they'll open up season against March 12th, I believe, against the Las Vegas Lights.
Yep, Las Vegas Lights, formerly coached by Eric Winalda at one point as well, which if you look up a video of him one time, because the RGVFC Toros were playing against Las Vegas Lights. This is a fun story about this. They won 5-2. There were 3 shots on goals from the Toros. And they won 5-2. 2 own goals on Las Vegas Lights, and Eric Winalda got interviewed after the game and completely lost it on his team. So that's a little fun thing of when Las Vegas plays against RGVFC. We like to bring that up to them, because it's one of the funniest interviews you can ever see from a coach just kind of losing, especially after just a poor game from their squad.
I think of any other final predictions here for the 5A soccer?
Final predictions for the 5A soccer. Yeah, one very bold prediction. This year it's going to be the 3rd year, I'm calling it now, of Sherryland High taking on Lopez in the playoffs for the first round. They did it in 2021. Of course, we didn't have any playoffs in 2020, but 2021, and then 2022 they played against them last year. And my bold prediction is it's going to be 2 versus 3 again. Will it be Sherryland 2 or will it be Sherryland 3? But either way, it's going to be them versus Lopez, and I'm calling it right now.
And keep in mind, folks, what we had said in these districts, these lengthy 10-team districts, nothing is guaranteed. You can have Matt Kai, who's unbeaten now. Hope I don't jinx him saying this, but you can have them who are unbeaten right now. Playoff time comes with a 2 seed, and then Portage probably the 3 seed. You'll have a slugfest, and it's just excited to see. And the awesome thing about it too is that you're a 4 seed in any of those districts. That's nothing to be like, hey, we're 4, we barely sneaked in. No, you fought you were in the ringer. There's a team who was just as good as you, who's at home. So it's just gonna be a wild ride for the Soccer Mountain, and I'm excited to see how it plays out. Jacob, you're from McAllen. Thank you for joining us on a very lengthy trip down home.
Yes, sir.
Right here at the Bronx. All right, guys. Jacob Young. Keep in mind he'll be doing that. Oh, before we go, Valley v. Sherland.
Valley v. Sherryland. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we haven't really covered them. I honestly cannot wait for this game. It's going to be very exciting. Last year, these two teams, I mean, they had it rough for each other. It's become a little bit of a rivalry. I think Valley View, they all know they are the team to beat, per se, as everybody wants to necessarily knock them off, because Valley View were the last team in that district to make it to state. They made it to the state semis, not necessarily to the state championship game, but that was back in 2021 where they almost won. they lost, I believe, by a goal. And so that was just one of those situations, and they beat Porter for the regional final, so they were able to knock off a regional champion like that. And, of course, if Valley View and Porter ever play against each other, that's a little bit of a rivalry too, because there's some love lost from that exactly. But, yeah, no, Valley View, Sherryland, it should be really good. We could expect a 3-2 game or something like that for a final score. I would be shocked if one team dominates the other team to the point where, they shut them out. I'd be very shocked about that. I'm expecting a bit of a goal fest to 5 goals at least. If not, maybe they draw and we head into penalties right afterwards. So there's always that possibility. On the girls' side, I believe Sherryland should probably win at least by 5 goals. I know that's tough to say, but we've seen it in district, and especially Sherryland coming off of a loss, they want to rebound and get back on track to make sure that they at least stay in third, maybe stay in fourth place, and have an opportunity to see potentially Nikki Rowe lose as well, because that's one of their main rivals, to make sure that they get into that possibly third spot. And if you're in that third spot at any time, you're feeling a little bit better, considering that you're not just on the bubble and inside looking out, basically, is what I'd say.
Again, Sherryland Valley View kicks off this Friday on the RSL2 channel, and the girls will be first and the boys follow at 8 p.m. Jacob, thanks so much for sharing your soccer expertise. It was a fun time. When was the last time I saw you? We did that VISD soccer tournament, remember?
Yes,
and
sir.
I know, we got to link up for another game together. That's all I know. Anyways, guys, Jacob Young here, the voice of Soccer for Real Sports Live. We'll be back with more after this here on the Luke Freer Show.
For quality care, contact Mesquite Home Health and Attendant Services today. In Brownsville at 594 Jose Marti Boulevard, call today, 956-361-5558.
We here at Mesquite want to wish all local athletes good luck in today's game.
And it went like...
Our service is unmatched. Our commitment to our team and our community, relentless. Our products are innovative and exciting. Fruya, we're what's next now.
We're the St. Joe Bloodhound Cheerleaders, and you're watching Real Sports Live!
Hija, tomorrow's your quinceañera. I need you to call your padrinos and tell them thank you for the salon, the tamales, the dress, el DJ.
Ay, Ama, you call them. I didn't even want a quinceañera in the first place. I would have preferred to have gone to Paris instead.
I will, fine. I'm gonna give you your surprise gift early.
Huh?
Guess what? You're going to Paris.
How?
Well, I've been saving mucho dinero all year in insurance thanks to Pronto Insurance.
Let's just skip the quinceañera and go straight to Paris.
Call your padrinos right now.
Okay.
Ask your agent how you can start saving with Pronto. Best price in town.
Aquí, en la Universidad de Texas A&M Kingsville, somos una familia. Nosotros nos apoyamos. Trabajamos juntos. Crecemos juntos. Triunfamos juntos. Nos inspiramos los unos a los otros para convertirnos en las grandes mentes del futuro. Estamos aquí para asegurarnos que tú triunfes. Aplica hoy para empezar. Es tu momento.
Josh Moody and Coach Rolly Gonzalez of Josh Moody Loans are former Harlingen Cardinals and would like to wish all the teams good luck in tonight's games.
All right, welcome back, and I promised you there's going to be some Major League heat there from Jacob Young, so thank you to him for breaking down some soccer and then some. Jacob's going to be down at the Valley View Sherryland Friday evening, so we do have some more swimming coming for you guys Friday morning at the Harlingen Aquatic Center. We will have the 5A district meet there covered. That is Friday, and then we have a doubleheader down in Edinburgh. Boys and girls basketball economides at Edinburgh. We have Valley View at Sherryland. West Lico at Los Fresnos. That is our Pronto Insurance game of the week. Brownsville Hannah at Harlingen, boys and girls. And then on girls basketball, Brownsville St. Joe at San Antonio Providence. Saturday at 2 at Canales Field, we have Victoria St. Joe at Brownsville St. Joe. So those are the games we have scheduled for the second half of the week. So be sure to follow us on our social media sites at Real Sports Live, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you download the app. That's where you can find all the games if you are on your Apple device or on your Android. Type in Real Sports Live, download the app, hit Watch Live, and then there will be a list of channels. RSL Premium, Bloodhound Channel, RSL 1 through 7, and when we post on social media, that will tell you where to find the games. So be sure to download the app, check out the website. You can also watch the games on the website, as well as we're just continuing to move into the app website era, and also, of course, on your Roku device. So again, be sure to follow us on social media, and then to catch the games live, you can go to the app or the website or on Roku, and then catch the games on the Demand app. If you ever want to rewatch a game, just go to the On Demand and then click On Demand, and then there will be a list of games there from the past. And again, we're just continuing to fill that with a lot of older games from the past, and then, of course, games from this past week. So that wraps it up. I will be, let's see, today's Wednesday. Friday, I'll be getting ready to go on the road again with St. Joe at San Antonio Providence. Ruben and the crew, they'll have first half of the day, they'll have the swim meet down at the Harlingen Aquatic Center, so keep an eye out for that. And then later in the day, the guys will all break off into their basketball games. So be sure to, again, catch us at the games, and make sure to follow us on social media. Special thank you to Jacob Young for joining us and talking some soccer, Rudy Zamaripa Jr., Ruben, Kevin, Joe. Hopefully he'll be back next week, and then we will see you guys at the games. Thanks for watching from Brownsville here at Luke Faria.